I looked at economies around Australia, economies similar to Australia. They invest 10 times as much into digital economy.
Wow.
So we have a problem here. That's the first of a number of problems.
Did you know out of 90 nations, Australia ranks 88 on the Digital Intelligence Index? Why are we falling short? We'll join the conversation and find out on this episode of Tomorrow's Tech. I'm Michael Fury, and today I'm joined by Marek Kowalkiewicz, the founding director for the Centre for the Digital Economy at the Queensland University of Technology, a world-leading collaboration between academia, industry and government. Welcome, Marek. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
So, Marek, from your perspective as the founding director of the QUT Centre for the Digital Economy, what is the digital economy and where does artificial intelligence fit in?
Digital economy is everywhere. It's all around us. It's really a confluence of the changes of the new trends in business, technology, and society that impact the way we live, work, and think. And when you think about it, the digital economy was not around 25, 30 years ago. And back then, the way we lived really differed from the way we live now. Try to imagine how you would book a trip to another place in the world.
Yeah.
The moment you can travel again 25, 30 years ago. Now compare it to how you would book your trip right now. You could probably pull out your phone and organize everything in just a few minutes. The way we work, remember how we used to create large organizations, have everyone gather in the same place and work from one location? The digital economy is enabling the workforce to be distributed and be all around the world. And the way we think has changed as well. You know, we used to trust large brands. These days, we trust 5-star ratings given to people we don't know, by people we don't know, and that's absolutely fine. So that world has definitely changed, and artificial intelligence is playing a massive role in it because it's helping shape those trends, the business, technology, and society by providing the technological underpinning and the intelligence that's coming through from the computing that powers those trends.
I agree with you, Marek. I think it impacts us all, right? And so you're already working with the state and federal governments a lot, and also the private sector. But how are you seeing the kind of adoption of artificial intelligence? Is it increasing? Is there more to be done?
I'm seeing an entire spectrum of adoption in this space. There are organizations that are clearly leading the way, and they're ahead of the curve. And at the same time, often within the same organization, public sector is a great example, often within the same government, I'll see departments that are ahead of the curve, and then departments where they clearly don't even have a good idea of how artificial intelligence could help them in achieving their goals, their objectives. It's similar in the industry, right? If you look at a random industry, there will be players that are way ahead of the curve and, they're globally relevant, globally leading organizations. And then there will be ones that are simply not even looking into this space. Why are they doing it or why they're not doing it? We could ask that question. Well, my take on it is Australia is a lucky country. It's a wonderful place to be in. And often we are not seeing the potential challenges that might be coming our way. So, in other words, it's all good. The business is going well. Why should I be changing, right? You look outside the window, the sun is shining, the customers are coming. And so you're not really seeing any potential challenges. There's a saying that the best way of fixing your roof is when the sun shines, not when the rain rains. And that's the same with the technology and artificial intelligence. I think a lot of us in Australia are missing that signal that the world is changing and that we need to push ahead as well.
Well, that's vital if we're to progress as a nation. So now there's no escaping Australia is one of the slowest developing digital economies in the world. So tell us, what are some of the reasons we're falling behind?
Well, the traditional economy of Australia has long benefited from the tyranny of distance. We've been so far away from everyone else that it's been pretty hard to enter the markets. But in the digital economy, it's different. Anyone from around the world can start offering products or services at any time. And that's a completely new challenge for us. Now, there's a lot of businesses in Australia that are doing well in such circumstances, but they don't really talk about it. They don't really talk about how well they're doing. And I work with many of such organizations, and they tell me, Marek, we're doing well, but we don't really want to share that with others. Maybe they won't like it. You know, we call it the tall poppy syndrome. And it is a challenge. It really is. Now, what it leads to is unconscious incompetence, the I don't know what I don't know of CEOs of other organizations. They simply don't even realize what potential is ahead of them and how to benefit from that potential. Now, if you don't progress your organizations, if you don't grow in digital economy, that means you're staying behind. And if you're staying behind, are you becoming a museum?
Well, that makes a compelling case for taking action. Now, the federal government's trying to solve part of this problem by recently announcing $1.2 billion to be invested into the digital economy kind of strategy. Is that sufficient in your perspective, Marek, or does more need to be done?
So $1.2 billion sounds like an impressive number, but it's not when you compare it to similar countries similar to Australia that are investing in digital economy. My research shows that those countries are investing 10 times as much into the digital economy in the respective jurisdictions. That's like Australians dropping a zero in the budget. Now, out of that investment, 50% goes into internal public sector spending. Only the remaining 50% goes into pre-allocated initiatives. And the government has already decided who the winners are. Now, does the government know what the best initiatives to fund are? I'm not so sure. I don't think we should be relying on only one player making those decisions. We need a slightly more sophisticated process there. A lot of that investment is pre-allocated over 6 years. No sane CEO would make decisions of what they're spending their, equivalent of 10 or $20 million in 6 years from now. They would introduce a model where that investment gets reviewed, in regular timeframes and then updated if needed. We don't have something like that for the digital economy funding. There's a lot of other issues with that funding. Australia needs 50,000 new computer scientists, engineers every year. The digital economy funding right now is funding 400 positions over 4 years. That's not even a drop in a bucket.
Well, that makes a huge amount of sense, Marek. And now, with the advancements of technology, how do you see organizational autonomy progressing?
Well, artificial intelligence is enabling a completely new type of economy. I call it the economy of algorithms. An economy of algorithms is one where software agents, mostly artificial intelligence, are creating value, products and services, but also consuming value, products and services. So, in layman's terms, so far we have had corporations and people playing in the economy. And we're seeing that world where now algorithms will join that game. And you're already part of that economy. You're already seeing it. If you go to your online bookseller, you will actually see bots trying to sell books. You might be buying from a bot. I'm very fascinated about this economy because it lets you ask questions such as, how do you advertise to a smart fridge? How are you going to get it to buy a beer from you? And how will you sell something to your car? Now, when those algorithms come together, they could start forming organizations, and this would be autonomous organizations. Again, fascinating questions. Will they be allowed to hire humans? Will there be labor unions? What if something goes wrong? Can I put an algorithm in jail? What would it even mean? So artificial intelligence is helping us or making us reimagine the world we live in. And I'm particularly interested in that from the digital economy space.
You've raised some fascinating questions, and I'm confident our audience has learned a great deal in this whole conversation. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
To our audience, if you're curious about the next big thing in the digital economy, join us weekly here on Tomorrow's Tech LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram channels. And if you've got a question or we've got you thinking, make sure you comment below about how technology is changing your day-to-day lives. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of Tomorrow's Tech.
Tomorrow's Tech, presented by 3 Dot Digital.